Of all the great names that have emerged from German football over the years, one stands above them all. World Cup winning captain and manager, Franz Beckenbauer. Two men from the home of beautiful football, Brazil, Ronaldinho and Romário. And Sir Bobby Charlton, legend of England and Manchester United. Four of the world's greatest footballers. This is the Immortals. Germany is a dominant force in world football, with 4 World Cup wins and 3 Euro titles. And if there is a man who symbolizes it, that man is Franz Beckenbauer. Only 2 men have both played in and then subsequently managed a winning FIFA World Cup team. One is Mario Zagallo, the Brazilian. The other is Germany's Franz Beckenbauer, who bestrode German, European, and world football for decades. And he is the only man to both captain and manage a World Cup winner, a key part of West Germany's triumph as a tough and skillful defender at home in 1974, and then as a calm and calculated manager in 1990 in Italy. Beckenbauer was so revered that he was appointed manager upon his retirement with precisely 0 experience in a management role. Moreover, he succeeded in the role at international level, then went back to club football and won titles as well. Success followed him from the time he arrived at Bayern Munich as a 14-year-old in that club's youth system. Promotion to the Bundesliga after his first season, then a German Cup title 2 years on, and a Cup Winners' Cup. With Beckenbauer as captain, Bayern won its first Bundesliga title in 1968-69, then 3 more in the next 5 years. As a player, no less a judge than Pelé thought him a superstar. Beckenbauer was one of the best I ever saw play. Originally a midfielder, over time, Beckenbauer drifted into a centre-back role that he redefined. The German figured out that he could attack from that position, one of the first to experiment as such. The libero, they called it, free to set up a team's defense, but also to create and start attacking moves that would lead to goals. In this, Beckenbauer, the constructor, the organizer, and the schemer, would change the game of football. Disappointments came along the way. In 1966, West Germany lost the final to England in the World Cup, in which Bobby Charlton, the great English player, overshadowed Beckenbauer.
And I was very conscious that being England was really a very big job to do. And I had been told by the manager that whatever happens, I must pick this 17-year-old player and stay with him completely. Don't keep marking him, but don't let him loose, otherwise he'll be dangerous.
Beckenbauer, who had been assigned to Charlton, acknowledged in later years that he had fallen short in his task. England beat us in 1966 because Bobby Charlton was just a bit better than me. In the 1970 World Cup, West Germany fell just short again, this time against Italy in a momentous semi-final that went to extra time, the Italians winning 4-3 to eliminate Beckenbauer's team. It was a game famous for Beckenbauer continuing to play with a dislocated shoulder after he was brought down in a dangerous tackle, the Germans having used their allowance of 2 substitutions, and the Kaiser needing to play with his arm in a sling. Hence, when West Germany hosted the World Cup in 1974, the nation having won the European title 2 years earlier, Franz Beckenbauer and his team were on a mission to go one better. Still to come on the Immortals, the rise and fall of the Kaiser. Franz Beckenbauer was an established superstar of world football by the time his country hosted the FIFA World Cup in 1974, having steered West Germany to the European title in 1972. But he had never won a FIFA World Cup, and he was about to ensure that this changed, with help from a fine German team that included the brilliant Gerd Müller, Günter Netzer, and a wonderful goalkeeper, Sepp Maier. The final in Berlin was against Holland, led by Johan Cruyff, playing what was known as total football, a breathtaking style that captured the imagination of all neutrals. When Holland won a penalty and scored before West Germany had even touched the football, the signs were not good. But the Germans equalized through their own penalty, and then Beckenbauer's immortal Bayern Munich teammate, Gerd Müller, secured the win with a right-foot shot. West Germany had its first World Cup in 20 years. The Germans were at once the European and world champions, a feat not achieved by a European nation before, although two have managed it since. Beckenbauer's career is stunning for its achievements. He was a member of 4 Bundesliga title-winning Bayern teams and won 3 consecutive European Cups from 1973, as well as 4 German Cup titles. He twice won the Ballon d'Or as the best player in Europe in 1972 and 1976, was named in 3 World Cup All-Star teams and to FIFA's World Cup All-Time team in 1994. In his latter years, he was part of football's push into North America, winning 3 titles with the New York Cosmos, then returned to Germany and won another Bundesliga title with Hamburger. A pattern had emerged. Beckenbauer organized, strategized, and won big titles wherever he went to play. Of course, it was no mere coincidence. Germany's successful bid for the hosting of the 2006 FIFA World Cup was a triumph for Franz Beckenbauer and a now unified country. But some years later, it would embroil the country's greatest football hero in a scandal that rocked FIFA to its foundations. As a member of FIFA's executive committee, he was suspended for 3 months from footballing operations in 2016 because he was deemed to have refused to cooperate with a FIFA Ethics Committee investigation into the awarding of the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. Beckenbauer said he had no intention of refusing cooperation, merely that he needed to have the committee's questions in German, his first language. But there was a scandal brewing over payments made to FIFA for hosting rights of the world's biggest football tournament over the years, with the likes of Sepp Blatter, president of FIFA, and former French great Michel Platini also implicated, as some of the sport's heroes were hauled into the mire.
I have just got the announcement that I am suspended for 90 days. I do not know why. Maybe someone will explain this or inform me in writing. I have checked the date because I have thought it was the 1st of April. This would be an April Fool's joke.
Ultimately, a string of FIFA officials were arrested, many of them issuing guilty pleas, and football was badly damaged by the affair. As for Beckenbauer, he was made to pay a fine of 7,000 Swiss francs and given a warning. He is one of the biggest names tainted by the investigation, which also saw his friend Sepp Blatter banned for 6 years.
The people are elected into FIFA through their own football associations in their country. So the question, to a certain extent, is about control. How do we control what happens there? I think the current structure can't work. It's too difficult and too problematic. Personally, I would say it's not the fault of the people within FIFA. It's the problem of the system altogether. And I think to change that is part of our work for the future. We have to do something.
Investigations into the bidding process for the 2006 World Cup are ongoing. In the end, Beckenbauer acknowledged an irregularity in the process run by his German organizing committee, which had paid more than €6 million to a third party to help buy the votes of 4 executive committee members from Asia. I, as president of the then organizing committee, bear the responsibility of this mistake. Franz Beckenbauer's reputation as an administrator was tarnished by the affair. But his reputation as a player and manager cannot be downgraded. By any measure, he is an immortal of football. Up next on the Immortals, 2 magicians from the home of beautiful football, Ronaldinho and Romário. From the country that brought us the beautiful game, a player who was the embodiment of the phrase. Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, better known as Ronaldinho, was at the peak of his powers, the best footballer in the world. His star burned out relatively quickly, but it shone a light on the game for a few years that can hardly have been matched through history. He was FIFA's World Player of the Year twice, in 2004 and 2005, and was an integral part of Brazil's World Cup victory in 2002, when he formed a lethal combination with the other members of the R family, Ronaldo and Rivaldo. Ronaldinho, who had adopted the name to distinguish himself from Ronaldo upon arrival to the Brazilian national team, did everything with a trademark smile and the tied-back hair. He never carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, and his wizardry with the football, the step-overs and the patented flip-flap, or elastico, made him world-famous.
Ronaldinho at the moment would have to be the best player in the world, the most exciting, the most lethal, the most watchable. He brings you onto his seat. He's got some wonderful skills, and he's an array of talent. And any player like that, can win a game. He doesn't win the game on his own, but he does make a difference.
Only a handful of men have won more than one World Player of the Year award, with Ronaldinho sitting alongside Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Zinedine Zidane, and Ronaldo in that honored company.
I feel these are really good times for me. Last season was really good, and the team received a lot of awards. Well, the team and also some players. We had a good season. I'm very happy to be at this level.
Ronaldinho played 33 times for his country and extended the factory line of Brazilian geniuses that began with Pelé and Garrincha, all the way to the modern-day hero, Neymar Jr.
Neymar is a phenomenon. Brazil's biggest football idol. He's a great friend of mine and one of the best players in the world. I think one day he will become the best in the world. It's a source of pride to witness a Brazilian making history. Before, they had here Romário, Ronaldo, Rivaldo. They left the doors open for me, and I was able to do my part. I left the door open for Neymar, and now I can see him doing so well. And most certainly, he will leave the door open so another Brazilian can come here.
At club level, his best work was done with the mighty Barcelona, where he helped Barca to 2 La Liga titles in 2005 and 2006. as well as the Champions League title in 2006, coming from behind to beat Arsenal 2-1 in the final. He scored 94 goals in 207 games with Barca, and a young Lionel Messi was among the teammates whom he inspired.
I had the happiness of being champion at all the clubs I played with. So all of them have a place in my heart. Barcelona was the club where I played the most. All gave me the chance. And here it really marked me, since it was a first title for the history of the club.
Ronaldinho had come from the port city of Porto Alegre in the south of Brazil, born into a family of footballers, and good enough to score an incredible 23 goals in a game as a boy. His father, João Moreira, died when he was 8, but left him with advice that stayed with him forever. Play football as simply as possible. Ronaldinho could do anything on a football field, but always lived that mantra. He wore the same jersey as Pelé, and few can have worn the number 10 with such distinction. Pure strikers are like gold in football, and Brazil had one of the best ever. Romário de Sousa Faria was such a force as a forward for Brazil and at club level that by journey's end he had scored 1,000 goals. He won the Golden Ball as best player at the 1994 FIFA World Cup as Brazil won the title in a penalty shootout with Italy. The same year he was FIFA World Player of the Year. The World Cup in the United States was his masterpiece. He scored against the Netherlands in a quarter-final, managed Brazil's only goal in the 1-0 semi-final win over Sweden, and in the penalty shootout that decided the final against Italy, a shootout famous for Roberto Baggio's miss for the Italians. His 5 goals for the tournament led the Brazilians and gave his country its first World Cup win in 24 years since the Pelé era. His 55 goals and 70 appearances for Brazil leave him only behind Pelé and Ronaldo among goal scorers for his country. He was also a superstar at club level, winning 3 Dutch titles in 5 years with PSV Eindhoven, a La Liga title with Barcelona, and a Brazilian title with Vasco da Gama, the club where he started as a young boy in Rio de Janeiro. Romário always thought of himself as the chosen one. He was not bothered by false modesty. When I was born, the man in the sky pointed to me and said, "That's the guy." His ability to poach and seize on opportunities was legendary, and no less a judge than Johan Cruyff, his longtime coach at Barcelona, called him a genius in the goal area. All of which was emphasized in 2007, when the Brazilian scored his 1,000th goal in all games. According to the records, only the immortal Pelé precedes him in this feat. And while FIFA's statistics only record goals in official games, there were wild scenes when Romário reached the landmark on May 20, 2007. Fittingly, it came at Vasco da Gama's São Janeiro Stadium. A penalty cheekily chipped into the right corner during a win over Sport Recife, and celebrated so long by the spectators that the match was held up for 16 minutes. Romário was 41 and in the last phase of his magnificent career. I dedicate this goal to all the people who helped me and who were always by my side, like my parents, my children, and all of you. The Brazilian Football Confederation and the government of Rio de Janeiro State presented him with a special Brazilian jersey with the number 1,000.
There are things in life that last forever. To me, and also to the soccer world. This landmark is already history.
Beyond football, Romário moved into politics. Always outspoken, he is a strong campaigner against corruption in the game. And most of all, an unforgettable figure in world football. Still to come on the Immortals, one of England's finest, Sir Bobby Charlton. He survived an horrific air crash to become one of the all-time greats of his sport. Bobby Charlton was just 20 when the Munich air disaster claimed the lives of 23 people, including 8 of his Manchester United teammates. It is arguably sport's biggest single tragedy. The afternoon of February 6, 1958, when in a stopover in Munich to fuel en route to Manchester after a game against Red Star Belgrade, the airspeed AS-57 Ambassador plane plowed into a house at the end of the runway on its 3rd attempt to take off. Busby's Babes, the team was called, in honor of manager Matt Busby, who survived the wreckage, along with Charlton and 8 other United players, several of whom never played again. Charlton, who suffered a cut to the head, was able to help goalkeeper Harry Gregg assist the injured and dying in the awful moments after the plane broke up.
But Manchester United were at the forefront of football in Europe. It was very, very important that Matt Busby came and he said that we will be a force in Europe very soon. And it turned out to be the case. We were coming back from European match, and in Munich we had some problems with the aeroplane, and we had a terrible accident for which a lot of really great soccer players were unfortunately part of.
Matt Busby regathered his team and by 1968 pulled off a coup when United won the European Cup, beating Portugal's Benfica at Wembley 4-1.
And now England's record-breaking scorer Bobby Charlton is to break the stalemate. A high pass from Sadler, and Bobby's head snicks it home.
United was the first English team to toast European success, and Charlton was at the forefront, scoring twice in the final.
And it's number 2 for Bobby Charlton.
An attacking midfielder with a piercing right-foot strike, he troubled defenses around the world over the next few years, and United rose to be a world superpower.
The philosophy has always been at Manchester United that you don't do things ordinary. You always, if you can, try to be adventurous. And that was the philosophy of Matt Busby, and that's the philosophy today.
A Manchester native, he also played in 3 First Division English title wins with United. And his club's scoring record survived until Wayne Rooney overtook it in January 2017. Not that Charlton's heroics were confined to the Manchester United colours. He played a significant role in England's greatest triumph on a football field, the 1966 FIFA World Cup win over West Germany. To this day, the country's only win at that level. Charlton was a star of the team that included his own brother Jack Charlton and captain Bobby Moore. It was England's greatest day in football, before more than 90,000 people at Wembley as Moore lifted the World Cup. England won 4-2 over West Germany, with Geoff Hurst scoring a hat-trick. Charlton won the Golden Ball as best player in the tournament, and also won the Ballon d'Or as best player in Europe in the same year. At Old Trafford, they unveiled a statue of the so-called Holy Trinity of Charlton, George Best, and Denis Law. And in 2016, the club renamed the Southern Grandstand at the famous Old Ground in his honor.
My time at United has been laced with all these great moments, and none more so than my friendship with Bobby and what he's done for me. Now, his daughters They're here together, Suzanne and Andrea, and they all seen him play, right? So you can glorify him a little bit. The grandchildren have never seen him play. So take this moment as the best moment of your life. You're here when Bobby, your grandfather, has got a stand named after him. That's the best moment of your life. Don't ever forget it.
Bobby Charlton was knighted in 1994 for services to the game.
I couldn't be at a better place than Chelsea for my last match here anyway.
He sits comfortably with the upper echelon of all the great players who played football around the world as a true immortal.